Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Navvai Shift. We are great to have Lilia Stoyanov on, the CEO and founder of Transformify. Lilia, how are you?
Very well. What about yourself?
All is very well, thank you. And so just for our viewers listening, can you give us a bit more insight into Transformify and what you do?
Transformify is a blend of HR technology and fintech. Quite unusual, but at the same time, something that really appeals to our users. We automate everything from talent acquisition to the entire recruitment process. Our applicant tracking system has a direct integration with ChatGPT, plus our own AI algorithms to help recruiters navigate the recruitment process to identify the right candidates. But after that, if they decide to hire those candidates as independent contractors, then Transformify acts as agent of record. We take responsibility of onboarding, compliance, billing and payments to those independent contractors across the globe.
No, that is amazing. I know Transformify has been a forefront of helping businesses embrace digital solutions as well. So what are some of the most powerful digital tools that you've seen making an impact right now?
It's our own platform. We built it from scratch, and it connects with a variety of payment providers via an open API and allows us to process thousands of payments per minute without any human intervention.
Wow. I wanted to ask Lilia, from your perspective, how would you describe the current health of the financial service industry?
Wow, over the years, the regulations have been changing, and we see now a positive trend towards compliance, towards preventing fraud. Especially now, banks are much more vigilant when it comes to fraud online. They're making sure that the users of their services do not fall prey. I'll give you an example. These days, Revolut, one of our key partners, is asking each time you add a new recipient to take a photo. So they have digital print who has been initiating that transaction. Is this person the same, or it is someone who managed somehow to gain access to that account via fraudulent actions? And it's fantastic. On one hand, at first, when they introduced it, it's an extra step. Each time we pay someone new, you need to take that photo and it was done. But then everyone on our team understands that it's there to protect us. It's there for AI to check immediately. We have on record this face. Is it the same face? Or someone else getting access to that account? So on that side, I see a very positive development. Still, there is a lot to be done, especially with so many providers that are emerging, offering similar services, trying to acquire users, not always using tactics that are necessarily ethical. There is a lot more that could be done there.
100%. And then what would you say do you see as being the biggest pressures companies will face when adopting new technologies in this digital first world?
Well, as always, this is related to compliance and to extra bureaucracy that comes with it. It's the regulatory framework. That framework changes maybe quite often. And each time it changes, the companies need to very quickly adapt to have all these processes in place, all procedures in place in order to be compliant with whatever has changed. So it's pressure on them. It's usually extra admin work, extra bureaucracy. Maybe it needs to be more consistent, more advanced plans by governments, regulators, etc. All communication should be there at least 24 months before anything is enforced for the companies to have time to adapt.
Yeah. We've seen so much, and you spoke about it already. We've seen so much innovation in fintech and automation, but where do you think traditional financial institutions like high street banks, in comparison to companies like Revolut, are falling behind?
What I see these days, we are using the services of a tier one bank, HSBC, plus the services of neobanks, e-wallets, etc. We have integrations with several providers. I wouldn't say they're not necessarily falling behind. It's rather a completely different perspective, and they appeal to different type of customers. Tier one banks are more about robust processes, but those processes, because they are very strict, take extra time. Onboarding of a new client may take 2+ weeks for a tier one bank and 24 hours for a neobank. Those 2 weeks give more comfort to enterprises. They are not so sensitive when it comes to timing. They are not so sensitive when it comes to digitalization. But they like the fact that whoever is onboarded goes through the same compliance process. On the other hand, more fast-paced companies, more digitalized companies don't have this timing. They prefer to be onboarded in 24 hours, to have everything digital, etc. So both of them have their own customer base. They appeal to different type of customers. And you see that tier one banks are always looking for an M&A targets. They're looking for the next target to buy and to acquire. They're not necessarily developing tech internally. They prefer to buy a company that is already growing, already proven technology, and integrate that technology in their own stack.
Amazing. And when we are talking about digital transformation, we're not just talking about technology. I believe it's also mindset. And how do you help businesses build a culture that embraces innovation, like Transformify?
Well, it's about listening to every potential client. We start with storytelling. It's very informal conversation. I want them to hear what their business challenges are, but it's not the usual interrogation process that most salespeople would take their prospects through. It's rather, we want to hear the story of the business, how this business progress, what they are really excited about, and what would help them to get where they want to be in, let's say, 2-3 years. And having that information really adds value to what we tailor for them. Our offering is not the same for each and every client. We tailor it. Quite often we customize or we develop a new functionality specifically for some client that operates in an industry that needs customization. They have some very custom process that's very cumbersome for them. It will add tremendous value if someone automates it for them. And looking, we see that it won't cost us much time and effort to customize it for them in particular. So we do it. And that's how you really incentivize companies to go through digitalization instead of some process that never runs, that in the end leaves people completely drained. You give them something ready and easy and totally tailored for their needs, and they love it. And they're ready for the next one because they know there is no pain.
Nice. One big challenge financial firms face is, as you mentioned, is balancing automation with compliance and security. How can businesses innovate without increasing risk?
Depends on the type of business. If it is payments, if it is simply payments processing, if it is billing, when you say financial services, it's actually a very, very broad range of services that are included there. And each type of service has different inherent risk. depending on precisely who the users are, how appealing this service is to fraudsters. Simple billing services are much less appealing to fraudsters versus peer-to-peer transfers because there is no actual cash involved there. Okay, billing, but someone needs to pay that invoice and someone needs to trust that this invoice is actually an invoice coming from the supplier. So it's a much longer process, and the likelihood of someone to be tricked into paying that invoice is much lower versus tricking someone to send money, believing they're sending money, let's say, to their parents or their family, and this to end up being a fraudster. So given that profile of the business, you have different measures that need to be in place. What I see these days is always checks. You're asking a user to validate their face and also to validate if it is the same on the document. There are extra steps. You have deep fake and you want to make sure that this is a real face. It's not something generated via a profile photo somewhere. Let's say they take your Instagram profile photo, they generate the fake, and this is used to identify you. Now, is providing anti-fraud solutions are trying to be a step ahead of the fraudsters. They have technology that identifies that this is a face that moves, this is a face that is not deep fake. Then they're also identifying if this document is actually a scan that was taken a long time ago and stolen online, or it is a picture you're taking now. So you have the physical document with you and this is the same person. They're going ahead with that. And I see progress there, quite a lot of progress actually these days.
No, that's incredible insight. And with Transformify, how have you seen automation help businesses, cut costs and improve performance?
For the businesses to improve their performance, first they need to have very clear understanding which part of the business is dragging them back. Because it's not one and the same for every business, even if they are in the same industry. Due to the difference in internal policies and procedures, there are different aspects of the business that could be optimized and cut costs. In our case, we see that the majority of the businesses would really gain and cut 60+% of costs if they fully automate the billing process and the payment process. I'll give you immediately an example with a very big translation agency. We have such clients. They have more than 10,000 editors, translators that are on the bench. Sitting on bench means that these people are on their list, but there are no projects for them all the time. They're contacted only if there is a project that requires their skills. And in such case, the agency, imagine if this is managed in a more common way, using, let's say, Excel spreadsheets. First, you need to figure out who is the right person, for example, speaks Japanese, German, and has experience in pharmaceuticals to translate documentation about a new medication. It's niche, and all the time it's niche. That's their business. They need to be able to very quickly find the right person, check the availability, confirm that this person is really interested in that project, assign them to that project, eventually plug the invoice and make sure that this invoice is paid timely. And you have 10,000 of them. The moment this is fully automated, so there is no need for a translator to issue an invoice. They are not accountants. They are not expected to know how to issue a tax compliant invoice. Their job is to translate. So we take all responsibility to automate the entire process, and that's how the translation agency is cutting costs by 60 to 80% sometimes, depending how manual the process was before. And this is like that for many industries. They simply need to take a look at those processes that are taking most time, effort, and result in extra cost, and automate precisely those processes.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely agree. And just on the topic of automation and AI and automation has the potential to completely reshape financial services, in my opinion. In your opinion, where do you feel like is the biggest opportunity for AI-driven solutions right now?
Depends on the industry. When you say AI comes with its downsides. It's a very powerful technology, but it needs to be implemented right. Otherwise, it will result in a completely adverse effect. I'll give you immediately example with our industry. If you trust AI to suggest the right candidates, you have 800 applicants for a role. And nowadays we see more than that. You know how many people are laid off, especially in the US. You may see 2,000 applicants for a senior role that pays well. It's impossible for a human to read all those resumes, all applications, etc. And it's not needed. But here is really the backside. If the AI algorithm is not trained properly, it may end up suggesting candidates that are not really good for that role or not the best for that role. It may end up filtering out candidates. And that's why, to be ethical, you should never allow any candidate to be filtered out. Everyone should stay on the list. Eventually, it's the decision of the human recruiter who is the right candidate for that role. We cannot 100% trust AI. The reason is AI algorithms are trained on data that's not perfect. That's one. Then the algorithms are trained, but the rules, at the beginning at least, are defined by a human. That human is biased by nature. So all these always need to be taken into account. There is a huge opportunity to automate and make precise lots of processes. At the same time, we need to be very careful and all the time to test the outcomes and to address issues early on. Otherwise, those issues will extrapolate because the algorithm will continue self-train itself on data that is less and less perfect.
I'm with you. I wanted to ask, when did Transformify implement artificial intelligence tools within the business?
Back in 2020, we received a grant from Innovate UK specifically to develop AI algorithm to help people who were laid off during COVID. Specifically to help them reskill, identify their transferable skills. These are the skills that will be appealing to a different industry. I'll tell you a story. Back then, there were many flight attendants that were laid off. There were no flights. People were at home, nobody traveled. So the aviation industry was one of the hardest hit, 70-80% layoffs. Those flight attendants obviously couldn't apply for a role as a flight attendant. Nobody was hiring flight attendants. And it was like that even in 2021, in 2022, the situation started improving. What is for them? What our algorithm was doing was identifying which skills the flight attendant has would be appealing in another industry, and suggesting roles that would never come up to the mind of a flight attendant. Flight attendants are trained how to handle very difficult clients up in the air, aggressive clients, drunk clients, you name it. They also speak by default at least 3 languages. These skills are really valued as account managers or customer support in e-commerce. And e-commerce was booming during COVID. Everyone was ordering everything online. There were many situations that were needed. But if you're a flight attendant, it will not come to mind that this role is actually really good for you and your skills fit there. The same for the recruiters. unless you identify why a flight attendant is good for that role, they wouldn't consider. The recruiters naturally are also biased. They see, okay, the previous job was a flight attendant. I'm hiring for an account manager. Why should I consider?
Mm.
So that was the time when we applied for that grant. And we immediately received funding to help both recruiters and people who otherwise would be long-term unemployed utilize those skills, because the skills are there. And it was very successful, and it still is. And after that, we continued enhancing, especially last year after the direct integration with ChatGPT. ChatGPT is helping optimize the job descriptions. Also, our algorithm is helping optimize them for search engines to put them in front of the eyes of candidates that otherwise wouldn't know the job existed. And then help recruiters understand which candidates are really good for the role.
Yeah.
It analyzes not only data for the resumes of candidates, the questionnaires they answer, it also analyzes data of what type of a candidate was put on the shortlist for that role before by the same company. Then what's the probability of that candidate to go through the entire recruitment process and then to reject the job offer? Imagine in 2 months on average to complete the recruitment process. End of the day, you receive a job offer and you reject it. Why? And what these candidates have in common? To identify for the recruiters later on, this profile is similar to that profile that usually goes through the process and rejects. Have it in mind. So it's a lot of data that's required, a lot of time as well. And again, all the time we need humans to validate the outcome.
Of course. And then next couple of years, how are you looking to essentially fine tune that tool? Are you seeing the opportunities to expand on it, or things that you're looking to maybe mitigate within it that you could improve on?
To me, it is quality data and quality human input. We are in a privileged role because we don't need to acquire data. In most cases, to train an algorithm, a company acquires data somewhere, and that data is not necessarily clean, not necessarily quality data. In our case, it's more slow process because we are using our own data. We have data of actual companies hiring actual people and actual recruitment process steps. So it's very relevant and very clean. It's not acquired. The bad side is it takes time to have it. And to precise the algorithms and outcomes, we need after every iteration, all those recruiters to come back to us and tell us, we see this improved, or we actually see something that's not necessarily the outcome we expect. But they need to explain clearly what was the expected outcome and how it differentiates from that expected outcome. So it's lots of effort, but at the same time, the quality is totally different.
Lovely stuff. A lot of companies are, they're still stuck doing a lot of manual tasks, and you guys are more or less the complete opposite of that. I feel like you have a very strategic plan when it comes to like automating and the very specifics of that. But if you were to speak to some of these companies that are, stuck doing, a lot of these manual tasks, what would you say to them to, get them ahead of the curve and, moving their operations a lot faster and saving time?
It's all about people. Your team needs to buy in, otherwise they will resist to change. And I have seen this many times. That's usually the reason why any digital transformation fails. The team resists the change. They see it as a threat to their roles. They see it as a threat to maybe their future with the company.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they oppose it. From the beginning, you need to have communication in place. What are the changes that will be introduced? Which roles will be implemented? What is the clear path for those people if they will not be needed anymore? Whatever is done manually now and will be automated later, means that people will be potentially laid off. They will not be needed. And if they will not be needed, you need to communicate it and you need to give them either career path with the company if it is possible. If there are other roles that will be available to them, if any training is needed, or at least communicate early on that these roles will become obsolete, but this is your plan how to compensate these people. So they have sufficient time to find new roles, they're treated fairly, everyone is on the same page. The worst I have seen in digital transformation is announcing like 2 months before play with people, or even a shorter period than that, that 20-30% of your current team will be laid off. It's a really bad example, and eventually the rest of the team that stays is already demotivated. They don't trust the company, they don't trust the management, they completely get disengaged from the process. So eventually the transformation is a fiasco, and that shouldn't happen.
Yeah. I know you definitely touched on what employers should do in terms of training, but as employees, what do you think we should do to in-house for ourselves to work on to ensure that we mitigate the risk of losing our jobs?
Have regular conversations with your manager and the HR team, and always ask what is the learning and development plan, if there is any, because not every company could afford this, especially these days. Then if there is no learning and development budget, what are the career progression perspectives? Normally, even during the interview process, a candidate should ask about career progression. If I step in and take this role, what are my perspectives? How can I develop? Do you expect the team to grow in the next 2-3 years? Because 5 years are too long of a horizon. In the past, everyone was asking, how do you see yourself in 5 years? No, how do you see yourself even in 3 years? Very big question mark these days. Everything is moving too fast. It's rather, what are the perspectives? Is the company growing? What's the strategy? Are you planning to develop new products? What's there for me if I join? This is something people need to ask, and they rarely ask during interviews. I'm a hiring manager myself. It's very rare when I hear a question like that. Then, to make sure that you're not laid off, meet KPIs, exceed them, add value to the company. These type of people who are proactive, who come up with ideas, who are positive, enthusiastic, are the last to be laid off. Because above all, we really value personality. We value people who add value to our team. That's what you can do to make sure that your career progresses, your career path with the company is clear, and you always have the promotion that you deserve. Of course, if you deserve it.
Lovely, lovely. Shifting gears, Transformify has achieved impressive growth. You're now, correct me if I'm wrong, by the way, but you're operating in over 184 countries. Is that right?
That's correct when it comes to independent contractors.
Amazing. So looking ahead into 2025, I understand that you have some ambitious expansion plans in place. Can you tell us more about your vision for Transformify?
Because it's very important to give back to society. The company is turning 10 years old. We have a birthday in a few months, and it's a big milestone, especially for a technology company. You know that the majority of them don't pass through the 5-year mark. They die before that. In our case, we became profitable back in 2019. We multiply revenue and profit every year. And the strategy to continue being successful is also to appeal to the society as a whole, to make sure that whatever we achieve as a business also is good for the people. And that's why we grant unlimited access to charities, to NGOs, to the core functionality of our ATS to help them hire the right people, because AI is there, but it's humans that still matter the most. And for charities and NGOs to have real impact on our society, they need the right people who engage with their purpose, who stand there for whatever the purpose is and drive value. We'll continue doing that, and we see very positive impact already, especially when charities and NGOs need to hire volunteers in war zones, post-war zones, or help people in need anywhere across the globe. We'll continue doing that, and we'll continue innovating. Especially our ATS at the end of this month will be completely revamped. We are adding functionalities. We've been listening to our clients in the past 12 months to make sure that they have everything they need in order to be successful. Our success is the success of our clients.
That's really amazing and definitely inspiring, I would say, for sure. Obviously, as Transformify continues to grow its global expansion, how are you ensuring that your services remain tailored to diverse regulatory environments across different countries?
We are no remote company, and our team is across the globe, currently on 4 continents. Each time we grow, we acquire market share in a new market, or simply we broaden our market share in an existing market, we make sure we have someone on our team who understands the culture and who is there speaking the language of those new customers we have. Customer service is something imperative, and we have a job line below 1% because we pay special attention to every customer. And this will continue to be like that. Doesn't matter how much of customer service will be automated by AI, we'll still have dedicated account managers that are there for every client. We're business to business as a business model. And it's something businesses value. They need someone to call, they need someone who listens to them if there is a problem.
Amazing. Also, as Transformify, of course, continues its expansion, where do you see the role of AI and automation playing in scaling the operations even further?
What I see right now are AI tools that help with prospecting and automate the sales team tasks on a daily basis. The very same is applicable to paid marketing. There are AI tools that analyze the results of paid campaigns and optimize them in a way that the cost per customer acquisition goes down, the quality of those leads goes up. So these type of tools are something we'll always embrace, and we are trying new tools all the time. Then another such area for me is accounting, and we already have 90% of accounting and reconciliation automated, but those tools are getting more and more precise. So there is no need for someone manually go and check these 5 invoices were actually paid as one amount. This is the amount. Does it reconcile, etc. Now it's AI that's analyzing it and highlights only those transactions that are still left behind and really need human input.
Oh, amazing. No, definitely. Really, it's been a very, very insightful conversation. Much appreciated. And just for our viewers, this will be the best way for them to reach out to you, also looking to Transformify even further.
They can at any time visit our website. There is a chat and someone will answer to them directly. Of course, they are very welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn, connect with me. I'll answer as well.
Perfect, brilliant. Now, Lilia, much appreciated for your time today. It's been very insightful.
Thank you, Lilia.
Having me.
Thank you.